guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 256th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So, of course, N.W.A isn't a fresh group of faces to this page. In fact, they were definitely one of the very first acts I went to when I did my initial starting group of 80s classics. I believe their breakout LP was just about the first one I ever discussed, second only to Public Enemy's It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. However, as any Golden Age West Coast gangsta rap fan knows, 1988 Straight Outta Compton was only one of two projects released under the N.W.A name, not including their 1987 debut compilation thing that they released under N.W.A and the Posse, or EPs like 100 Miles and Runnin'. Today I wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of the second and final official full-length LP the crew ever put out, which was 1991's Efil4zaggin, and while I definitely love this thing, it does suffer from an issue that much 90s gangsta rap does, where many of the topics and ideas expressed are a bit on the vulgar and insensitive side. I don't think quote-unquote inappropriate lyrics have no place in hip-hop, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I think many reasonable and empathetic hip-hop fans in the modern day can look back and acknowledge how certain classic LPs, especially this one to be honest, go so far overboard on homophobia and misogyny that it can be a bit cringy to listen to at times. I've touched on this topic before, and I don't completely blame the rappers who use these slurs and epithets, because it was a different time, and while that excuse has kind of become warped over the years and abused as a way of defending actual sexual predators, I do feel like the different time angle is a bit more fair to apply to rap music, considering a good amount of the offenders have grown drastically as people since these early days. Though unfortunately, I still feel like there's progress to be made in that department. And I've definitely made this point on the channel before, but if you look at pretty popular contemporary rappers like Tyler the Creator or Earl Sweatshirt, the music they were making in the late 2000s and early 2010s was full of deeply inappropriate and purposefully edgy lyrics about sexual assault. Yet by the end of the decade, both had pretty much completely disowned and grown out of the style they came into the game with, and moved on to making more mature, complex, and denser work, albeit on two totally opposite sides of the rap music spectrum. Me being closer in age to those guys, I feel like I can relate and had a similar journey, where I was in middle school going into high school when Odd Future started blowing up, and while I never actually used a slur directed at anyone, I definitely joked around with my friends, and said things I probably wouldn't today. My point being that the members of N.W.A have had a good 35 years to learn and grow as people. The only reason it's so relevant when it comes to Efil4zaggin is because the second half is so heavy on themes of sexual violence, it genuinely does outdo some of the early OF stuff, because at least those can kind of be excused with them being young, edgy teens who weren't really serious, and in Tyler's case, it was almost more of a character. It was often part of a larger concept. But while obviously the whole LP here is designed to be provocative and over the top, and I'm not implying anyone in this group actually did or would condone doing any of the things they talk about here, it's packaged and delivered in the same way pretty much all the other tracks are, which makes it more difficult to discern exactly where the line is being drawn between joking and serious. But as we all know, it isn't like themes of misogyny, street violence, didn't exist elsewhere in the art form back then and today. And to be fair, N.W.A was kind of just building on the concepts that they came out of the gate with on their debut. Plus, considering they lost their chief writer and lyricist in '89 when Ice Cube left, it's understandable and all but expected that the overall quality of the bars would take a bit of a hit, though the DOC would do his best to keep the boat afloat with ghostwriting duties. However, even though Cube's departure wasn't long before Efil4zaggin, it didn't take long for things to become less than amicable, with multiple barbs being thrown his way on the 100 Miles and Runnin' EP as well as on this thing, which as we all know would ultimately backfire on the crew. when not long after Ice Cube would respond and dismantle N.W.A. on his sophomore LP death certificate with the infamous goated diss track No Vaseline. Still, even though I think there's some moments that haven't aged that well, you can't deny that the legendary Outfit's Farewell album here is littered with aggressive, electric, and often racially charged lyrics, and you can't forget the hilarious skits and interludes, my personal favorite being Automobile, which is really more catchy than it has any right to be. The production is one of the main things that keeps me returning to this LP, and it's handled by Dr. Dre and DJ Yella, as Arabian Prince had also left the group by this point, and outside of a few MCs getting writing credits, no other actual guest performers are brought in on this thing. When it comes to my honorable mentions for this one, I wanted to shout out tracks like Real N-Words Don't Die, N-Words for Life, Real N-Words, I'd Rather Fuck You, The Days of Way Back, and One Less Bitch. Then for my overall top 3, I narrowed it down to Always Into Something, Appetite for Destruction, and Approach to Danger. Thank you for watching my 256th video. Next up, we have a legendary East Coast duo that I haven't covered on the page yet, so check in for that upload, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what tracks from this West Coast send-off you return to the most frequently. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.